right, so I am back with Emmaline Warden, who just read a scene from The Seasonal Habits of Husbands and Honeybees from her series, The Genus of Gentlemen. And there were a couple of things that stood out to me from that scene. One
hmm
is obviously our heroine, Phoebe, is a little, she's very blue stocking-ish, and she doesn't quite appreciate the rules of society. I'm not sure she doesn't understand them or if she understands them and just finds them futile. So I was curious, like, how did you approach writing her and where did that inspiration come from?
So Phoebe is neurodivergent. At the time that this was written, she would have just been labeled odd, but she's very much sensory processing and very, very like regimented. The rules are all laid out for her. It's all black and white. There isn't any gray area. And I wanted to write a heroine who is obsessed with beekeeping. And bees are very meticulous. Everything is a process. Everything has rhyme and reason to it and what they do. And I was like, why shouldn't a heroine be that way as well? I mean, this is not a new thing that we're discovering. Obviously, being neurodivergent, being on the spectrum is something that we as humans have dealt with for forever. We just only now have started to actually call it what it is. And so I kind of went about that with Fee, and I chatted with a lot of my friends who have children who are on the spectrum or who they themselves are on the spectrum. And oddly enough, as I was writing Fee and I was talking about, the things that she disliked about the balls and society and all of that, I started to realize that a lot of the things that she dislikes are part of the things that I tend to feel uncomfortable with in social circumstances. It really kind of became eye-opening for me of like, like maybe that wasn't, my anxiety, but maybe my body is actually, that's how it processes these circumstances.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of Fee in me and me and Fee with this
Yeah.
book.
That's so interesting. And I think it speaks to how, like, we think that we're writing a story about X, Y, and Z. And then when we actually get into it, it's like, oh, wait, maybe this has to do with my issues. Not that it's an
Yeah,
issue to have
it's
neurodivergence, but,
just you
whatever.
learn.
Yeah. I really love that. And another thing that this scene set up, and also the blurb of the book, is that we're about to have a marriage of convenience between
Mm-hmm.
Harrison and Fee, which is one of my favorite tropes ever. So I'm really like, I'm hooked already. But I was curious, as it's such a strong marriage of convenience setup. Did you begin the book, or do you tend to begin books knowing that, oh, I want to try out this trope? Or is there something else that hooks you into a story?
I think it's not so much I want to try this trope. It usually actually comes from other media. This book really kind of piqued my interest with after watching To All the Boys I Loved Before, and how they both sat down and created this list of what their fake dating was going to look like, right? And they had an
Mm,
agreement and they shook on it. And I was like, that seems like something Fee would do, where she would want to sit down and pen it all out and say, this is what my marriage is going to be, and treat
mm.
it like a business deal and renegotiate. And that kind of became the setup of, okay, obviously that's marriage of convenience. How do we get there?
Yeah. And I know Harrison is a character that was introduced in book one. So did you start with Harrison thinking about who would he end up with, or did you have Fee as a character that you wanted to write, and then Harrison was kind of conveniently your next character, and they worked really well together?
Oh, Harrison was definitely the next character of the book. And I knew that. I knew he had this like golden retriever energy.
Mm,
He wants to love you. He wants to be there and to take care of you, and to, he gets joy from being around you. And just the things that he had gone through in the previous book, which there wasn't a lot of backstory with him, but it was kind of hinted at. It made sense that he would need to be invested to fall in love with somebody. There would need to be an actual like love match for him to want to do that, or it's going to need to be a complete opposite. And it's just going to need to be, this makes sense. I'm probably never going to get to where I want to be. And then, yeah, Phoebe really just started out with beekeeping. I wish that there was a better story for that, but I was like, I am super invested in bees right now. I wonder what that looks like.
And is that because you are beekeeping yourself?
I wish I was beekeeping myself. No, we live in outside of Denver, so beekeeping is it's a lot harder
Not
of
an
a process
option.
to, yeah. But I garden a lot. I have 22 plants as a present, and then of course it's summertime, so I have an entire garden that is, and my natural thought is, okay, what can I do to get pollinators into the garden?
Mm.
What flowers can I use? I was looking at little carpenter bee homes that you can get, and just kind of became really fascinated with the process of beekeeping.
Yeah. And did you do a lot of research into beekeeping in the Regency era versus modern day?
I actually did it with both, mainly because a lot of the information that we have now, they didn't have then. And a lot of the hives that we have set up, they look like boxes. That was not
Mhm.
what they were dealing with. They had things called Huber hives, which looked like books. It was a lot of interesting things. And again, too, the beekeepers were typically doing it not for, pollinating whatnot, but because they needed the wax. So a bee colony was, it was a business. It was treated like, livestock or gardening and agriculture. So like a lot of the times they would, I don't remember if they had fully figured out smoking them out yet to get them to kind of calm down, but they
Mhm.
would drown a colony
Oh, wow.
if the colony was too aggressive, to be able to get to the wax and the honey and all of that. So it was a lot of like back and forth. I very much wanted, I don't know if you are, I think you're present on TikTok. There is
Mhm.
a woman in Texas who talks in a very melodious voice, and she talks about rescuing the bees. And today we're
Oh.
going to get a high, and it's very like calming and soothing. And her whole thing is getting colonies that aren't don't have a home, that they're, in someone's wall or a tree or whatever, and she collects them and she relocates them. And so I wanted that comforting like feel with it, and fit it in the Regency area.
Yeah. That's so cool. I'm gonna have to go check out that channel on TikTok now and get
It
some
is so
calming bees in
soothing.
my
I
life.
can't even explain. I put it on and just listened to her, and I'm like, yes, save the bees.